Hey guys, it's time for Truth Talk, insightful topics that spark real conversations. Thank you for joining. Let's get this started.
Welcome, Jackie Schlegel.
Yes,
Did I say
ma'am.
that right?
You did.
Okay. Thank you for joining me here on Truth Talk.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the main reason that I am doing these interviews is to give candidates the opportunity to talk to the voters and for the voters to really get to know their candidates. I've ran for office before and I know that the forums, they're great,
Sure.
but they seem like rapid fire at times. And it's like, dang, I wish I would have said this or I would have said that. So this is just a really good time to make sure that whatever you need to say about certain hot topics, I will call that, and then to give you the opportunity on your stance. And we'll just go from there. But I want to start with uh, first, who is Jackie? Just kind of give us a brief, who you are and where. I know that you've been tremendous when it's come to the vaccines, and I really
Yes.
appreciate that. I mean,
Thank
I've
you.
seen you fight very hard on that, and I appreciate the fight that you have done. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, and that way you can talk about who's Jackie.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for pointing out that I am a fighter. Because if I had to choose one word to describe who I am a fighter. I do not back down. And I think that has been evident in my work in medical freedom. Personally, this journey really as an advocate, and I like to talk about advocacy
Hmm.
because running for office is a form of advocacy. Being a
Right.
state legislator is advocating for your constituents.
Hmm.
And so for me, this is all tied back to my advocacy. It started with the birth of my child as her mom and her advocate 24 years ago, and her significant injury as an infant led me to this world of medical freedom. That is what got me involved first as a special needs mom advocate and then in the state legislature as a citizens advocate.
Hmm.
10 years ago, there was over 10 years ago now, there was very concerning legislation filed in the state of Texas that would have removed parental rights
Hmm.
to make medical decisions for our children. And as Ashlyn's mom, as an advocate for her, I needed to step up and do something to protect her and
Hmm.
kids like her. I will
Right.
be honest, when I started this journey 11 years ago in the state legislature, I knew nothing really about the process and how to stop a bill, how to get a bill passed. But ultimately, I launched an organization and threw my hat into the arena and have become incredibly successful in medical freedom. I stood with Governor Abbott on my priority legislation, which was the ban on COVID vaccine mandates. That
Thank you. Thank
Thank you.
you.
That bill took a little bit of time to get done, but I was incredibly proud to stand with him as he signed that legislation into law. It's actually, the bill is in my home today, and it's a great reminder of the advocacy that we have done that
Hmm.
has kind of turned into the Make America Healthy Again
Yeah.
movement. And I've had
Yeah.
a small part in that and have worked with Secretary Kennedy over the last, I think I met Bobby probably about, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago.
Really?
I did,
Oh,
yes.
that's awesome.
And so he's a friend in this fight. Brought him to Texas in 2019, if you can imagine that.
Wow.
Took him to the state capitol to advocate for medical freedom. And so, really do have a long track record in the legislature and in nonprofit work and advocacy. But this is why I appreciate so much of what you do as well. I mean, you are advocating through your platforms and your channels to bring a message to voters. And it's
Hmm.
incredibly important that we
Yes.
really all find a role. Everybody has a role
Hmm.
in making Texas great.
Yes.
This just happens to be the one that I am in right now.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's awesome. And again, thank you so much for that because there has been just so much, especially with the COVID vaccine, and there's just been too much, and I've seen some of the impacts that's even happened to my family, unfortunately.
Sure.
So I really thank you for that. So let me just turn around and let's just kind of talk about some of the hot topics that I've been asking some of the candidates. I want to start with casinos.
It's a big
Okay,
one.
a big one. And first of all, I want to ask the question, and I've asked everybody else, have you received any funding from any pack of casinos? And if you have, is that something that you're willing to give back, or is that something that, I mean, what's your stance on that? In addition to, what is your stance on casinos?
Sure, sure. Good question. So I have not received a direct contribution from any casinos. My overall, just general, belief on this is any contribution is not indicative of a vote.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of money is pouring into a lot of races for various different reasons,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes outside groups support candidates that they might not wholly align with on everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily look at that as an indicator of someone being bought or paid for if they receive a contribution.
Mm-hmm.
I do think this is a very interesting topic that we're going to have to really keep an eye on.
Right.
As I am at the door, it is coming up some, but it's pretty mixed feedback on the issue itself. And so I am taking all perspectives into consideration
Mm-hmm.
as we navigate this very sticky subject.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Patrick and Abbott have just said they don't want this in Texas. It's not happening. I don't see a bill happening anytime soon. So I think that's going to be a good time for Texans to really have this discussion and figure out where they stand on this issue.
Right, right. And I know that there have been some people that are concerned about having any kind of casinos because it could really hurt the small business, especially when you have these all-inclusive type and casinos that have everything in it. It's like a mall. It's all the restaurants and all this kind of stuff. And so there has been some concern, and I've talked with some voters like, I own a small business, and if they stick one of these things here, I mean, they're not going to come to my restaurant. They're not going to come to my clothing store. So I think that's kind of some of the things that are very concerning when it comes to small
Sure.
business. And so,
Well,
okay.
so I'll tell you, a couple of days ago, I was actually listening to a Christian podcast,
Hmm.
and an advertisement came up, and it was basically for some sort of social gaming casino app.
Mm.
And it
I've
said
seen those. Yeah.
legal in Texas, completely legal in Texas. And that was a little surprising to me, right?
Hmm.
I didn't think this was something that was allowable. So I started reaching out and kind of asking my friends in this arena, and they confirmed, yeah, this is something that is allowable in Texas.
Really?
Yes, ma'am, from what I have been
It's
told.
like they can actually win something out of that stuff?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
wow. I didn't know that.
Yes. And so that was surprising to me. So again, I'm enjoying being out and talking to the constituents and hearing the different
Hmm.
feedback, because I do take very, very seriously the policies that we are passing. They impact my family, your family,
Right.
our neighbors. And
Hmm.
specifically when you're talking about small businesses, yeah, we're going to get in there and we're going to talk to those voters and make sure that we have good policies in place.
Okay, that's great. All right. So the other thing that has been a buzzword is Sharia law,
Yeah.
and I happened to go to a an event that Brian Harrison had,
Okay.
and specifically asked him, okay, I know that our governor Abbott signed that it's banned, Sharia law is banned, and I point blank asked him, is it really? And he just looked at me. He said, it's only in the family code. And that was a surprise to me because why not everything? So, what is your take on Sharia law now that it's just in the family code and nothing else?
Well, look, we have to protect, especially our young people, right? I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you a huge need that I see is just the overall indoctrination of our children in schools.
Right.
I'm kind of the generation that it's reading, writing, math, good character, good citizenship. So when I think we're even talking about this subject in particular, we really got to look at what's being taught to our kids in school. And I
Yeah.
think this is an area that we might be missing the mark. So this is something that, if I get this position and I am able to represent HD94, we're going to figure out where the trouble spots are and we're going to tackle it head on because we absolutely have to protect our communities, their
Hmm.
safety, and the minds of our children.
Yes,
Look,
they're the future.
they are the future. I have young adults. They all have social media accounts.
Yeah.
And I can tell you during their teenage years, there were just a lot of conversations because even though they're conservative, they're Christian, they're with me, they're getting their news from TikTok.
I know. Isn't that my granddaughter just said that yesterday, I mean, just
Mhm.
about her car, and I'm like, okay, stop.
Yeah.
Stop, because they take it as golden.
Sure. So,
Yeah,
what is the message that they are getting?
right.
We absolutely cannot tolerate anti American messaging, plain and simple. And I do worry about the effects of social media on our children
Hmm.
hearing that message. So, we will leave no stone unturned when it comes to protecting the hearts and minds of not only our children, but our Texas citizens.
That's great. Okay, I'm glad you said that. All right, the other topic that's been going around is THC. You have some that is
Okay.
pro, like big time pro, and then you have some like, do you really know what it does to your body? And
Sure.
then I know that President Trump came out a few weeks ago that it sounded like maybe, but what is your stance on THC?
Well, you are certainly hitting the hot topics today, and I do appreciate the ability to have this conversation. Look, Texas has really good compassionate usage laws, and that means the people who need that form of medicine should be getting that form of medicine.
Hmm.
I have been vocal about that for several years that people with special needs, people with epilepsy, seizures, brain injuries should have the ability to access the medicine that they need. I think the big problem we are having right now is that's not exactly what the issue is. The issue is the stores, uh, popping up all over,
Right.
catering to young people.
Exactly.
We don't know what's in these synthetic products.
Hmm.
You don't know the exact dosage. And
Hmm.
it's incredibly concerning that this industry has kind of run amok, right?
Hmm.
So I think it is a fine line in ensuring that patients who need access to the safe medicine continue to get it, and we keep it out of the hands of children and you know these synthetic products that we really can't vouch for what's in the ingredients and if they are safe or not for those who are purchasing them.
So do you think that, I mean, so do you think that, let's just say that it is just for medical reasons, right? So should that be, like you said, we have different businesses that are just kind of popping up. Um, should it be distributed like through a Walgreens? Something, because it is for medicine reasons. Is that something that you think should be considered rather than all of these pop-ups to really keep, like you said, away from kids?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that program's already in place. And
Hmm.
and that is my point is a lot of work has already been done in the state of Texas with the compassionate usage program. And so a lot of the families that I know with special needs, medically complex, they are able to access those products safely for their children.
Okay.
Um, like all public policy, sometimes you got to tweak it as the years go by.
Hmm.
But I am confident that we have a good program in the state of Texas and that will continue to function as it should. I do think there is a component missing on these pop up stores, whether it be regulatory or banning some of these products.
Hmm.
We absolutely have to ensure whatever is being put out there is safe
Right.
and
Definitely.
and,
Yeah.
and tested and not getting in the wrong hands.
Yeah. I totally agree. Okay. All right. Great. Okay. So, property taxes. Oh my gosh. This
Yes.
is a big one. And we've been hearing it for so long, and I know that we have what a surplus. I think it was 24, 26 billion this year. And one thing that I keep telling folks is we received, what was it, the $140,000 homestead, right? That's great. But there's that but. Um, do we really get tax relief from that? Because you still have the appraisals going up.
Yes.
You still have that issue. And then you still have where a school board controls the tax rate. So we really aren't getting the property tax relief in my mind, because I can tell you, I just did an appraisal on my house, and it was up like 148,000. I was like, seriously? I'm not going to get that benefit. I'm
Yeah.
going to end up paying more taxes this time. So, what are your thoughts? What do you think should happen when to actually real tax relief?
Sure. Great question. And this is the number one question coming up at the door as I talk to voters. We're
Hmm.
all feeling it. Just cost in general are through the roof. And if you are being taxed out of your home, if you can't afford to keep the home
Right.
that you have worked so hard for, that's
Hmm.
just a devastating and heartbreaking situation for any family to be in.
Right.
And as long as, to your point, appraisals continue to go through the roof, you can't keep up. You
Hmm.
can't just adequately, compensate for that difference when your taxes are going up every single year.
Hmm.
So I do think, although some progress has been made the last few legislative sessions to provide some relief to some individuals, it's time that we bring widespread spread relief across the board. We
Right.
need more people to feel the relief here. Governor Abbott has rolled out a 5-point property tax plan, including capping appraisals and some other good things that are really going to help Texans. I am endorsed by Governor Greg Abbott, and I'm very proud of that endorsement. I think he knows that I'm going to work incredibly hard for HD94 and for the state of Texas. And this is the legislative session for us. No more excuses.
No more.
No more. The governor has made this a priority, and we are going to ensure that we get good policy to the finish line so you get real relief that you can actually see.
That's right. And I know that the schools depend on the property taxes. So, what I'm hoping, and you may have thought of this, and if you have, go ahead and share this. How, I mean, we need our schools to be funded,
Sure.
but we see that the decline is happening, right? And their curriculums need to be better. Um, and I know that we have a discipline issue,
Yeah. Yes.
but it really comes down to, because most of the property taxes locally is paying flipping the bill. So, do you have any ideas as far as school funding to kind of offset that?
Sure. Well, here, let me take you from this perspective. I always hear, whether it's education, funding, healthcare, it's like we need more money. The
Mm-hmm.
solution always comes down to more money. But as a single parent who has raised my kid on a very modest budget, who homeschooled them on an incredibly modest budget, I can tell you it doesn't always come down to more money. Okay.
Right.
There's a lot of waste in our school districts, in
Oh
our
gosh, yes.
healthcare, that we can cut out, and we can make sure that our schools and our programs that we are providing are running efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
This is more than just a headline. We're going to Doge Texas. This is more than just a campaign speaking point. And this is something that we can actually sit down and come together and work with our school boards and work with our superintendents in our school districts
Mm-hmm.
to figure out how we can be more effective and efficient with less. I just don't buy that we can't do that. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know about you, but I'm guessing you are a lot like the families I serve. You've got a monthly budget. You know what it is. You have to live and work within your means, and you make it happen. And
Yeah.
that's what our local government and our local school districts are going to be asked to do the same. I think there's plenty of resources there. They have to be allocated appropriately.
Yeah, definitely it does because I mean, I know I've seen some school budgets and it's like we're always in the red and they're marching down to the Capitol advocating to make sure that no, keep the appraisals at every year rather than every 3 years. And people are being taxed out. And that's
Sure.
another thing, affordable housing. How do we solve that? What are your thoughts on that? Because people that are younger, they can't afford. I mean, if I were to sell my house, being where it appraises now, and you get a young couple, could they really afford that?
Well, again, I think the property tax is huge. I mean, we've seen this in my own family. I have young adults that are looking for houses. And when they're out there shopping, they find this, great little house that's in their budget. And then they realize that monthly payment is,
Yeah.
going to increase by 30-40% to
Mm-hmm.
pay for insurance and property taxes. It's shocking, right?
It
It's a little
is.
shocking for
Yes.
them. So I do think that by working with the governor to pass property tax relief, that is going to directly impact our young people and their ability to live in the communities that they want to live in.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Arlington. HD94 is more than just Arlington, it's
Right.
Hearst, and it goes up
Mm-hmm.
farther north.
Right.
But it's a great community full of great people, and we want to keep it that way. We want to keep it affordable for our neighbors to stay in their
Yeah,
homes.
absolutely. And I hope so because I know I have my kids are in their early 40s and so it's just difficult. I mean, they got great jobs, but it's so difficult for them to get a house just so that they can like I want to own a house and I can't because it's too expensive.
Sure.
So, yeah. Okay, border security. Boy, aren't we hearing a
We
lot
are.
about border
Yes.
security? So, what is your stance on that? What do you think needs to be done, especially here in Texas, because we're the gateway.
Yeah, we are.
We've experienced a plethora of
Yes.
people that are coming in or had come in, and now we're trying to get them out. And now you're seeing all these protests and just, it's crazy. It's just crazy how hard it's been on these federal agents.
Yes.
So, what do you think needs to be done more to protect Texas, number one, to make sure that our resources aren't being cannibalized,
Yeah.
okay, and our healthcare system is being stretched?
Yes.
So, what are your thoughts? What do you think should happen to
Well,
help
you
it?
bring up some really good points, and I hope I can hit as many as possible because this is something that we are feeling directly in our own communities. I know I have firsthand experience with it, so I'm sure you do as well. We're seeing it not only in crime, in
Yeah,
violence, in
yes.
drugs. It is painful at times to open up social media and to see the latest
Yeah.
gang violence or drug ring or shooting that take place.
Mhm.
So we are having this issue with crime. I would also argue in our schools. I spoke to an administrator last year about the influx of children coming in undocumented needing services. Now, mind you, many of our families who live in these districts pay taxes, have
Mhm.
children going to these schools, can't get services. We are
That's the
having
problem.
to fight for them. My
Mhm.
child with special needs was one of them. Could not get the services I needed for
Why
her.
was that? Because if it's there for special needs, why is it that it was the other ones? I guess that's the way to say it. They got preference
Yeah, I would say so. I would say
rather
so.
than an American.
Yes, I would say so. And I would say up until recently, that's been a very unpopular statement, but it is the reality of the situation. And if we are compassionate, then we have to realize that there are children in our schools that aren't getting the services they need, but, families who are here illegally that are able to access those services. It's the same thing with Medicare and or Medicaid. I'm sorry, Medicaid
Medicaid.
in healthcare.
Mhm.
And I think most of our constituents, most of the people in our circles, we're compassionate people, right? We want the children who need these services to be able to access them, but we don't want to just give them away to anybody who shows up on our doorstep and
Right.
claims they need them. And this is an incredible issue that, again, as we're weeding out fraud, abuse,
Oh
and
gosh, yeah.
of these programs, that we really make sure these services are going to the people who need them, and those are citizens. Well,
Yeah.
this is the point of the Doge committee that
Mhm.
was formed last legislative session, really looking into state agencies and government entities to make sure that, again, the services that families need are being provided to those who need it, and getting rid of fraud, waste, and abuse to ensure those people who are taking advantage of the system do not have the ability to do that. So I absolutely look forward to being a part of that and using my knowledge and experience with a special needs kid and navigating these systems to, again, bring tangible relief to Texans who need it, and accountability and transparency to our state agencies.
Yeah, maybe the requirements is another thing because right now it's I think it's crafted to, you got to be totally broke in order to get any kind of help. And so I don't know if that'd be something that should you get into office that, let's look at these requirements. Why are
Sure.
we punishing responsible citizens if they just need a little bit? Why
Yes.
punish them? Why do we want to make them broke?
Well, in some of the legislation I worked on this legislative session was to bring a little bit of accountability to the SNAP program.
Okay.
Why are we subsidizing the chronic health epidemic by giving our most vulnerable citizens access to junk food and candy and soda?
Yes.
And,
Yes.
SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. This is to provide nutritious foods to the most vulnerable citizens who need it. And that's not what was happening. We were
Hmm.
pretty much, subsidizing candy and junk food and things that we know make our children sick.
Hmm.
And these are kids who are on Medicaid and have poor health outcomes. The Democrats would have you to believe it's more money, more money. We need more money poured into these programs. No, we need accountability, we need transparency, and we need common sense reforms. We're not going to subsidize the chronic health epidemic. And so I'm incredibly proud to have worked with Bobby Kennedy and Governor Abbott and some great legislators. I was actually at the Maha bill signing a couple months ago, where
Oh,
all of
really?
these pieces of legislation were signed into law. And it was a really exciting time for Texas.
Oh,
Yes.
awesome. Okay. So, and I know we've kind of touched on this, but the medical freedom and public health, I mean, what do you tell me where your stance is on medical freedom? I know that you've worked very hard in your
Yes.
organization and in about public health. I mean, what does that look like to you?
Well, you really can't have good public health if you don't have good individual health, right?
Hmm.
We need individuals to be healthy. I've worked quite a bit in medical freedom, not only on just protecting your right to informed consent
Hmm.
in vaccine freedom issues. I mean, ultimately, I want you to be able to make these decisions for yourself. But on the Make America Healthy Again agenda, I mean, Secretary Kennedy has done incredible work getting back to the basics. I never thought I would see a day where the basics of sunshine,
I
exercise,
know.
good, healthy food, whole
Hmm.
food, real food would become so controversial. good relationships,
Hmm.
just the basics of life that humans need to thrive now have become these hot topics. That's nonsensical. It just does not make sense. We
Hmm.
all know that good health starts with those foundations.
Right, right.
And I'm incredibly proud of the work that we have done in Texas, getting the junk food out of our school lunches.
Yeah, yeah.
Has been a big effort. We've made some great strides during legislative session for that. And we're going to continue to work on this issue of making America healthy again. But I stand firm. We're not going to have good, solid public health if we don't have good individual health. So we got to get back to,
Affordable,
yes,
definitely affordable
sure.
because there are, unfortunately, I was a single mom for
Yeah.
13 years. And I mean, I had two girls and, or still do. And it was tough back then.
Yeah.
It was real tough back then. And now it seems like the more I meet more people, there's more single moms out there and they're struggling because the cost of everything
Everything's
is
going up.
just up. And so
Sure.
we need to make sure that things are being more affordable. And I think it's gotten pretty good, but it's still pretty expensive.
Well, let me just share with your audience two things that I'm a huge believer in that I think could actually be good tools for them. So, as a family that does have some complex needs, and medical care is a big issue in my family, as well as affordability. I'm a huge fan of direct primary care. This is where you pay a monthly fee to have access to a provider who then provides a good bit of services. You
Hmm.
can go in at any time. They do basic blood work, and it's like a monthly subscription. This
Really?
is
I did not even know
a
about that.
great way to for just about anybody to have access to a provider, and
Hmm.
it's very, very, very affordable.
It's not like an HMO thing, is
No,
it? No. Okay.
just direct primary care where you are paying the provider, basically like a monthly subscription.
Hmm.
We're well accustomed to paying for our Netflix and our Amazon and
Right.
everything else. What better way than to help with your health care than to have a direct provider that is basically available 24/7 with
Hmm.
a reasonable monthly subscription. So I'm a huge fan of the direct primary care, and I'm a huge fan of Christian Health Share Ministries. In particular, the one that I have used for many years has a low fixed rate for single parents.
Oh.
And it's how I was able to provide care for my kids for many, many years.
Mhm.
It's incredible the cost difference with cash pay and insurance. By paying cash through a Christian Health Share Ministries, you are cutting out a lot of the middleman and you're driving down the cost and you're paying a fraction of what you would if you're going through your insurance. So these
Hmm.
are things I'm incredibly passionate about. And again, I've lived them as well. These are things that I can attest to using in my own family.
Oh, I didn't even know that existed. I don't know why, but I didn't even know that existed. I mean, it exists now, that
Sure.
option.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yes.
that's good to know. I did not know that. Okay, so we've heard some talk about I know that and a lot of our legislators have talked about we need to make sure that no foreign country can buy our land. I don't know how much it bought. I know they've bought. And there's been talk about we need to take it away. What is your stance on that? And what are some ideas to make sure that we're keeping our land
Sure.
as sovereign as possible? So, and I know a lot of it's farmland. And so, what are your thoughts? What ideas do you think that we can make sure that we are protected?
Well, I think we did take some steps during this legislative session. Is that what you were referencing?
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
heard about it, but I didn't know how far it went. I mean, I kind of feel like we're behind. the ball.
Sure. And I'm not sure that we concluded the topic of the border either. And I think it kind of ties together, right? We've made some really good steps. We've moved the needle in the right direction, but we are not done. We finally have control of our border right now.
Finally.
Finally have control, but what happens when we don't have a President Trump in office? Have we passed
Mhm.
enough policies here in the state of Texas to hold the line? So I do think you're going to continue to see border issues, this issue of the land and China's influence in
Yep.
the United States. We
Yeah.
touched a little bit that on that with the
Yeah.
discussion of the social media. But yeah,
Mhm.
we've got to take some really firm positions to ensure that we are protecting Texas
Mhm.
and our citizens, protecting our land, protecting our borders, and really fighting for Texas. There's a lot of pride here, and there's reasons for that.
Yeah.
We have our neighbors' backs, and we really care about our neighbors, and we're really proud of our state.
Yeah. And to your point that yeah, that's great that we made some strides, but it kind of and I've been asked this question and I don't know if you have an answer for this, but it's like, okay, the Republicans pretty much have the House and the Senate. So there should be more movement happening in Texas. Why is that not happening? And it's taking so long. I mean, we're the majority, right?
Yeah.
And so why do you think? I mean, what's happening there?
Sure. Well, this is a great question. I'm going to answer it probably a little bit differently for you because
Okay.
remember, I've been advocating in that building
Right.
for the last 11 years on policies.
Mm-hmm.
So, in any given legislative session, you can have 6,000 bills come across your desk as a legislator. Okay. What's going to stand out for you? What's going to stand out is when you show up in Austin and you ask to meet with your legislator. What happens when you guys get that busload of people from Tarrant County and you drive down to Austin and you sit in front of those legislators and those staff members and you say, these are the 10 priorities that we are fighting for this session. We need to partner to get these done. They need advocates. They need people down there. I will tell you, the left does a very, very good job of organizing in Austin.
Yeah,
They
I've
flood
seen
the
that.
Capitol. Um, some of the things that take place in that building are are just pretty wild, but they advocate very, very well and they organize a lot of people to flood the Capitol. I think on the sports bill, the girls' sports bill, I think they had over 700 activists show up.
Against?
Yes, in yeah,
Really?
yeah. And
Wow.
so when we talk about getting involved in your local groups and organizing, and making your phone calls and sending your letters and getting down into Austin, it's not only to just put pressure on the legislators to do the right thing, is to really show them that we have their back. We support these policies. This is going to be tough to get this bill without any fallout. People are going to be mad. People are going to swarm the Capitol. The left is going to have a meltdown. But guess what? We're going to be here advocating with you to pass these bills and get them signed into law. So I just can't speak enough to what it means to really throw yourself into the trenches in the
Mhm.
public policy and get down during legislative session and have a voice and be there, testify, show up, register,
Mhm.
and let your voice be heard because we need more people in that building.
So do you think that there's more persuasion when people show up, or it's just making sure that you're talking or sending, like you said, sending letters, emails, calling or whatever to the legislators? Is it more impactful? Because I can't imagine if you got like hundreds of people showing. I'm like, are they not working? So, but is it more persuasive if they show up or it's just contacting
Sure,
period.
it's both. I would argue that it's both. I would also say, from a policy perspective, you may have an expertise or a knowledge that not everybody has,
Okay.
and legislators rely on their constituents. As a candidate, if I am able to represent you, I have a diverse expertise. I'm not an expert on everything.
Hmm.
There are going to be issues that you are more well versed on, and to be able to come alongside of your state representative and to help them craft that policy so
Hmm.
that it is as strong as it possibly can be is a really incredibly important role. And that is the commitment too I will make to my future constituents, is you will always have a seat at Jackie Schlegel's table.
So you will be accessible.
Incredibly accessible. Yes,
Okay.
I know what it's like to be in that building advocating. And as
Hmm.
an advocate, you want your voice to be heard. I'm
Right.
going to have. Everyone's going to have their voice heard. Even when we don't agree on policy, you will absolutely, I will be accessible. I'm going down there to represent you. I'm going to represent HD94, and I see that as a partnership.
Right. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about the last thing, and we kind of spoke about that earlier.
Yeah.
The most recent judgment about that came out, I think it was Monday, finding you liable on whatever case you were going through for the last 4 years. I would like to get your comments on that
Sure.
because I've gotten so many phone calls, and I said, well, I'm going to be interviewing her. Like, well, make sure and ask her. Okay, fine. So I'm
Yeah.
going to give you the opportunity to go ahead and address that.
Sure. Great question. Look, we think a $600,000 judgment on a $5,000 claim is ludicrous. It just does not make sense. It's illogical. But nothing about the last 4 years in being attacked by West Texas has been logical. It hasn't. But here's what I can tell you: this hasn't stopped me the last 4 years. It's not going to stop me now. Okay.
Hmm.
This district does not belong to West Texas. It belongs to the people of HD94.
Hmm.
My commitment is to you. And so when we started this podcast, I said, you asked, who is Jackie Schlegel? And we said, Jackie Schlegel is a fighter. I'm absolutely always going to fight for what's right, and I'm going to fight for the constituents of HD94. This is an unfortunate circumstance, but it doesn't define me. It's not going to define me. It is just something that we deal with and we keep moving forward. I have a job to do, and we're going to do that job.
Like we do in forums, you got 30 seconds to tell your constituents, the voters, uh, what do you want to tell them?
I just am so eager to serve the citizens of HD94. When I think about our district, I think about, the people like Bob Kimball who have dedicated their lives to bettering this community. I think about Carol Daly with her own special needs child and turning that pain and heartache into something so good with all of the work that she puts into serving this community. That is what makes HD94 great. We're not all going to agree on everything. Every policy might not be, perfected with everybody on the same page, but we come together and we fight for this district. We have really something special and unique here.
Hmm.
I'm incredibly excited to partner with the members of this community to go down to Austin to be your voice, to represent you, and you have my commitment that I will fight for you with the same tenacity that I have every other battle and obstacle. I'm just a mom. I'm just an average person, not a politician. I'm not somebody who really even saw my life going in this direction, but I
Hmm.
figured out that I could use my voice for something good and something much greater than myself.
Hmm.
And I decided to step up and do that. But I'm just like you. I'm the mom next door who wants to fight
Hmm.
in Austin to represent this great district.
Thank you so much for coming by and giving me the opportunity to interview you, and also giving you the opportunity to speak to the voters. We do have what is it? The primaries is on the second March, is it
March
second or third?
3rd.
March
3rd. Yes,
3rd.
ma'am.
Yeah, so it's very close. I know it's coming right
Yeah,
around the
it's
corner.
coming very, very quickly.
Right around the corner. So, okay. Again, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy, and I appreciate you coming by.
Thank you, ma'am. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
All right. Thank you.
Hit the subscribe button to not miss any episodes of Truth Talk. Until next time, thanks for watching.